Thank you for the thumbs up. All right, so welcome everybody to the Texas Teams Community Meeting for October. I want to thank Mark Leavenworth. I forgot to start recording, so we're thanking him for a second time. So Mark, thanks again for the continuous partnership here. We were just talking, it's been a couple of years now that Mark and I have been getting to work together on this. It used to be, of course, Joy Hall Bryant. Right, Mark, you've been in this role for about 2 years now?
I've been attending the team's community meeting for longer than that, but I've been in this role for about a year.
A year, okay. Gosh,
yes, we've been working together longer than a year, but
yeah, awesome. So let me bring up my correct view here. Let's see, who do we have in the building? Or in the meeting? Does someone mind kind of keeping an eye on the chat for me, Mark or Greg Stevens? If y'all don't mind, I sure would appreciate it.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, and let's see. We don't have some of the regular. Let's see. No. Just looking at who all's in the meeting so far. Okay, great. All right, well, let's jump right in to what we have for this session. So we're doing this right now, the welcome and introductions. I don't think we're going to need the whole 10 minutes. And then I wanted to give you an update on a couple of things that are going on and some updates. I'm not going to actually give the updates on the technology, but we're going to talk about some great place for you to find out some of the latest things that are going on in all things Microsoft. And then we have a special guest with us who is going to give us a great deep dive on Microsoft Teams rooms. And so James Maudlin and I we worked together at Microsoft, and he actually we co-presented at the Hybrid Work Summit for Public Sector Leaders about a month and a half ago. And he has one of the coolest titles ever. He is a global black belt and focuses on Microsoft Teams rooms. So we're going to go into some depth on Teams rooms and some of the latest things that we have to share with you all, and some best practices and some really great open source material that we're going to be giving to all of y'all to assist you in any desire for Teams rooms. We'll have some room for Q&A and open discussion, but as always, feel free to put your questions right into the chat. We can answer them as we go, or we can answer them at the end. But this is an open forum, so raise your hand, come off mute, turn your video on or not. Just join the party. As always, want to encourage you, if you are not already on the official list, then you can scan this QR code with your phone. A couple of years ago, when we first introduced this QR code and you said scan this QR code with your phone, most people were like, I don't really know what you mean. Now, I can't think many things on a pandemic, but everybody knows how to use QR codes now. So that is like one tiny upside. But if you have team members, other people in your organization or other organizations that would like to be on the official list, then you can just click the URL down below, the Teams Community Interest List URL here, or you can scan the QR code, and that'll put you on the official list. And so we'll make sure that you get invited to the meeting. So this year, and let me go back one real quick here. One of the things that is really impressive about the state of Texas and what y'all have achieved is that 100% of the agencies in the state of Texas are using Teams, and now some of them are still using other meeting platforms, which is great. I know that there's plenty of WebEx that's still out there. There's Zoom out there, but what we are finding is that everyone is at least using Teams as one of those platforms, and we've been doing a lot of work to integrate and make sure that we provide the best employee experience for all of our hybrid workers. And so, yeah, exactly, bringing everyone together, Andra. And so one of the focuses that we've had for this whole year around the One Tribe with More Cowbell is helping everyone learn how to use the tools and optimize the tools. And so there are PET. there are a lot of new capabilities that have been introduced into Teams, and there are a lot of capabilities that are going to be introduced. And so one of the things that where we make big announcements about what's going on is at our Ignite conference. And so it is actually, a lot of times what I do in these meetings is share some of the latest news. And I'm going to do that next month. But it's actually taking place right now as we speak. And so the Microsoft Ignite conference is where we share some of the latest advancements that have either happened or are going to be happening. And this is the link, and I'm going to send out a PDF of these slides afterward, but you can click this if you want, and it'll take you right to the site. There is no charge to attend the conference, and all of the content is available on demand. Another thing that I really like is that after the conference, we put together what's called the Book of News. And so this link, again, it'll be in the PDF, will take you right to a page that has all of the latest information, and it's categorized by whether it's Azure or data or artificial intelligence and machine learning or our developer tools. Huge announcements around our developer tools at this conference. And then there's a whole section on modern work and on Teams as well. As you all know, one of my focus areas is around the metaverse, and we're making a lot of announcements about what we were referring to, a big session on the industrial metaverse and what we're seeing and the focus that we have. And some of you may have seen that we actually made a big announcement in the last 2 days with Mark Zuckerberg and Meta. And so there is going to be integration between Microsoft's platform and Meta's platform for the metaverse. So that was pretty exciting. And the new Oculus, well, it's not, it's the Oculus. They just released their new Oculus, and so it is an industrial or an enterprise version of their virtual reality headset. So and we're going to be integrating Teams right into the Oculus platform and kind of a virtual desktop to be able to use. Lots of interesting announcements. In fact, I'll try to add the that Mark Zuckerberg, Satya Nadella, who is our CEO. I'll add a link to that that video as well. Pretty interesting, just to really look at what's coming next with regard to how employees will be interacting. So another thing that we're seeing from a trend standpoint is the integration of Teams with different devices. So Teams integration with phones, Teams integration with room systems. And so I wanted to share an announcement from one of our partners. Some of your leaders came to the public sector, the Hybrid Work Summit for Public Sector Leaders that we had about a month and a half ago. And they got to see the latest room systems and what's possible with the latest technology that not only works with Teams, but also works with WebEx and Zoom. And so NWN Carousel was one of our partners, along with Poly, who set up these rooms. And so I wanted to bring your attention to a program that they have put together for Texas. And they're on a contract called the TexAN contract. And that is a contract through the DIR where you are able to procure phones and phone system and room systems. And so what I want to do real quick is I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to share my screen with you. Let's see here. I'm sure I'm sharing the right screen. See, I think I shared the wrong screen. I did. So give me a second here. But they put together a page. They're going to be having an event coming up that is let's see, here we go. They're having an event coming up that they're going to be showcasing these different room systems and the different hardware. They're partnering with one of the hardware providers, Poly, and so I just wanted to highlight some of the things that they're doing, and it's a great opportunity to go and see these the room systems. And I think that it's kind of hard to know what the latest is because there's always so much going on. And so this could be an opportunity to go and actually see what's possible and see what these rooms are doing. And these are not like the rooms, some of you may remember there's like telepresence rooms where it's, it's like $100,000 per pop and you had to have this massive internet connection between the two. These are regular room systems. It's just some of the cameras have gotten a lot better and the hardware has gotten better and the integration to Teams as well as WebEx and Zoom has gotten better. And so they are really focused on pulling together the hybrid work and making sure that the room systems and the telephone integration all works very well. And so some of the things I really like that they do that's a little bit different is they actually have this thing called Rooms as a Service. This is not an advertisement for them. I'm just they're one of our partners that are on the contract, and everybody knows AT&T, and you've been working with AT&T for a long time. This is one of the newer partners that are on that contract, so I wanted to highlight this. And so they also are able to. They have this platform called the Experience Management Platform. And they've been working really closely. They started out in California, and so they helped migrate some of our big state and local accounts over to Teams Phone out in California. And so one of the things I like is that the speed to be able to do the migration is super fast because this platform that they built and the integration into Teams. And so they were able to migrate over 2,000 phones from a legacy PBX over to Teams Phone in about 30 minutes, which sounds, if you have any experience in telephony, that sounds ridiculous and impossible. But I know they can do it because I have some of my coworkers actually work on those accounts. And so, but they have the ability to buy back existing hardware. So if you have some legacy hardware, they can buy back some of the older hardware. And then they also have some promotions that are going on, some different funding with Microsoft to fund workshops where they can come out and actually do an evaluation for you and an assessment of the different meeting rooms that you have and really help you understand what's possible and then also do some planning. And so that would be something where they would actually come out to you and Microsoft would pay the partner to go and do that work and do those workshops. And so you wouldn't have to, that's all internally, we would just pay them. And so it's just an opportunity for you to learn what's going on. And so I'll put the link to this page in the slide deck. But they can schedule an appointment with you to schedule a workshop or just an information session. So, and then down at the bottom here is if you want to learn about that event that they're having, then just put your email address in there. And they're not going to spam you or anything, but that way they'll let you know when that event is coming up. It's currently it's going to be taking place in November before the Thanksgiving holiday and all that kind of stuff heat up. All right, so these are a couple of the other links that I put in. So here is the Microsoft Ignite conference that I'd spoken about, the Book of News. This is being updated. And so a lot of the sessions and a lot of the announcements haven't taken place yet. So you can certainly go there, but you'd want to check back after the 14th because there will be a lot of new info. And then the session that I always like to go to is this the keynote. This is the first session of the day, but I'm putting a link to this keynote into the slide deck so you can just go straight to it. What I like about this is that Satya Nadella, who is our CEO, he goes kind of all the way through the whole Microsoft stack and gives some highlights, and there's some demonstrations and some other just interesting content, and it gives you a little bit of an overview of what's going to take place during the conference so that you can know some other sessions that you might want to attend. Okay, so let me stop sharing that screen and go back to the slides. Any questions about any of that? I wasn't checking on the chat, but just wanted to see if anybody had any questions about anything I've covered so far.
Michael, no questions in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So the next thing I want to do, James, I was going to put my slide back up, but it'll be really just to introduce you, is I want to introduce you all to James Maudlin. He's on the video here with me. as I mentioned earlier, James and I get to work together, and he is a global black belt that talks about our hybrid meeting spaces. And so, James, I'm just going to hand it over to you. And just real briefly, we have a lot of customers here in Texas, James, who have already invested into the meeting rooms. A lot of that was done very early in the pandemic timeframe. And so they certainly don't know about the latest. I don't think, except for those who have attended like our conferences. So again, I really appreciate you taking the time to come and visit with us and share a little bit about what's going on and what the latest is. So hand it over to you, James.
So hi everybody, and I appreciate the time and the time that you're taking to listen to me today, and hopefully it'll be useful for you all. One thing I will make note of that I realized as we were talking or as you were talking on my deck, you asked if I was going to make any changes, and I actually just made one, and that is I didn't put my email on the original deck. And so if you'd like my email, would like to contact me afterwards, this is a good time to grab that and have it handy, and feel free to reach out to me on anything that is concerning meeting rooms or hub. And so today I thought we'd be good to talk about the hybrid meeting spaces. And with that, I'm not necessarily going to talk about um, some of the new components that all of the vendors have or anything else like that. This is going to be more of how Microsoft is doing it. We find that our customers are really interested on what we've done because we've made some great advancements over the last couple of years when it comes to our meeting spaces and how we've designed them. And I wanted to go into that methodology with you today. So when it comes to hybrid work, that's kind of what everybody's calling getting back to work. At the end of the day, it's still work, right? But with getting back to work, we realized during the pandemic that pre-pandemic, people that were in the office actually had the advantage. And by that, it's if you were remote, you were dialed in. Most of the conference rooms didn't have video. Most of the time, they couldn't see what interaction was going on, what people, just their reactions to comments or things like that, or actually trying to get a word in. If there's a lot of people in a conference room and they're all talking, the mic doesn't stop and can't pick up that somebody's trying to say something remote. So if you were in the office, you actually had that advantage. But then during the pandemic, when everybody was remote, everybody's using Teams and having meetings, and everybody started turning on their cameras and everybody started seeing those expressions, and everybody had a way of being heard because they could raise their hand and people would actually see that and stop and talk. It kind of leveled the playing field and made things a lot better. And so during that time, a group that we have called the Hive, and I'll introduce those folks in a minute via video. We started thinking about how are we going to redesign our spaces when we come back, because it's going to be a hybrid environment where some people are at home, some people are at the office. How is that experience going to change? Is it going to be worse? And in a lot of cases, it was. If you came to the office, the experience would be worse. And if you came to the office and it was worse for you there, it was also worse for the remote attendees. And I say that because just recently I had to present to a group of people that were in one of our Microsoft offices that has not been upgraded. And the camera was way up high. I couldn't see only half of the people in the room. And I was getting that disconnect feeling that we were used to pre-pandemic. But when I talk to the people that are in the new rooms, we feel close, we feel connected, and we can get work done a little bit easier because we see what's going on and the expressions that are happening. So we started thinking about how we're going to make changes within Microsoft. And so over those last 2 years, we've been doing a lot of thinking, been doing a lot of experimenting. We have 13,000 meeting rooms here at Microsoft, and we've been looking at each and every one of those, how they're used, what types of rooms there are, what sizes, all of those things. And we started to develop plans and what we call archetypes to convert our rooms to, so that experience would be better moving forward. And the team that actually does this is a group that we call the Hive, and they're the digital experience team. And they're the ones that are dedicated to not only certifying Teams devices here at Microsoft, or the Teams devices that go into Teams, but they're also the ones that are designing the rooms that are around Microsoft in those 13,000 rooms that I mentioned. And this is a group that actually does that. And I'm hoping that I remembered to turn on my PC microphone and you can hear this as we go forward. If you can't, just let me know and I'll stop the video. But this is the Hive.
I do not think the audio is working, James.
It's not working.
We've been working
Wait, there it goes.
here for really almost a decade now on the internal
can
employee
hear it?
experience for
Yes.
all of our conference rooms and workplaces worldwide.
You would not imagine that there is a building in Microsoft which is full of people sort of experimenting with space and furniture and how people are working.
So our team here is a partnership across our own employee experience team, our global workplace services team, as well as the research and development teams building the product.
It's also our living laboratory. Lots of movable components. You got cardboard tables and styrofoam things that we can move around and do rapid prototyping and testing. So it's our little garage that we can tool around with stuff.
Around the time of the pandemic, one day, everybody around the world just stopped using all of our conference rooms. Very quickly, we realized, okay, something big is happening here. We have a new world where everyone can meet all the time from wherever they are. At the same time, we lost a lot of the human connection. What we are looking at is a sea change in the way that workplaces are going to be designed.
When we gather together to consider how to solve a problem, we all have different ways of approaching it, different ways of looking at it.
Probably the funnest part of my job is figuring out how to break stuff so that then we can figure out how to fix it.
We've got ideas in here that literally came together with a cutting knife, some duct tape, and some cardboard.
I am lucky to be in this space at just the right time. We have accelerated a decade-long change and we've compressed it in 2 years.
Our work here is made possible because of the platform that we have, and specifically the Teams experience. Every room you walk into, it's just a Teams room, just like the software that's on your device. That's the magic of having a consistent, powerful collaboration platform that get better all the time. It's that partnership that makes all this possible.
And I think creating spaces like this and bringing in real consumers of those spaces and testing this in real environments is really important.
Companies spend huge amounts of money on commercial real estate every year. They're all thinking about how do they need to evolve their workplace, and changing that real estate is especially challenging.
They involve physical changes to the room and furniture, technical changes to the audio-visual equipment and software, and then, of course, trying to optimize this idea of including everyone.
And we will show them rooms that look like the rooms that they're familiar with, and then the exact same space that we've transformed. In one case, we have our fully remodeled room, and that's been fully thought through end to end for an optimal hybrid experience, but at a higher cost. And then in another case, we have a room where we retrofitted it with new furniture and hardware and software, but without changing the fundamental structure of the room. And that eliminates a huge amount of cost in that space while still bringing a real hybrid between the physical and the virtual.
The work that we've done and the work that we continue to do has so much value to external customers that we're going to start to intentionally turn those standards outward.
And so those standards really form the sort of quality guarantee to have that experience for a remote attendee while still giving the people in the room an experience that's meaningfully better. That's the kind of magic that we want to drive.
We're working every day trying to figure out what experiences do we push out that make sense, not just for Microsoft, but for everyone.
So they've got a very fun job, and it's nice that I get to work with them on a regular basis, and it's neat to hear the things that they're doing and the things that they're trying. And one of the things that they've done is they've created these archetypes for us that we use, so that when it comes to meeting room design, it's not every room is a brand new install, and not every room is really not thought out in a complete manner. Instead, there's a lot of that goes into it, and what they've done is, and you probably heard mentioned in that little video, is that they're turning the standards out, and what they mean by that is we're sharing what we're doing in our archetypes with our customers now, and how we do it and what we're doing, and that's what I kind of will show moving forward as we go through the talk today, and that is what we're doing. And this slide is kind of one of those disclosures, in that with our archetypes, when it comes to what we've done, it doesn't mean that this is a one size fits all. And this is also a moment in time that we've made our decision, because a lot of the decisions on our archetypes were made over a year ago now. And so it's not a one size fits all. And we don't want you to think, okay, I'm going to take this and it's just going to work in my environment, because there's a thought process that goes behind that. And that's what I'll share as well. But it's just make sure that you're not taking ours and think it's just going to work. And and it might not. And we don't want you all to have a negative experience, because it's all about the experience as we move forward. So what I'm going to do now is drop out of the presentation and actually take you to where we are sharing our archetypes internally, which they've created this really nice AI for us that I get to share and work with customers. And as you can see from this is our AB design catalog. This is the archetypes that we have for each of our areas. We've decided to have focus rooms, small, medium, and large, extra large, and actually open spaces, and now even some enclosed spaces or partially enclosed spaces, where we've created this archetype. And this is just a representation of a room, and there's a lot of categories and things that go into it. But if we take a look at this, and we're working with customers, working with you all, you can see that this is a room. A focus room maybe has 4 or 5 seats, and you can maybe 117, 110, let's call it, square feet. Where your six seats might be 257, 250 square feet. We're giving you some square footage and some ideas as to the space and the things that went into the design of these rooms. And again, we take a look at those 13,000 rooms, and we start to then categorize them in each one of these different spaces or that space type. And then based on that, then we start, let's say we end up with 500 that are in the small space. Then we try and then narrow that down into, okay, what components would work the best in these 500 spaces? And mind you, they might not all work, but we're going to try and find that common denominator and that common category of equipment that's going to work. And so based on that, let's say I mentioned the small room. Here's that traditional look that they were talking about during the video and mentioned. Here's the square table that we're all used to. Here's a whiteboard, and here's maybe a dual screen at the front of the room. This happens to be an optimized room, where it's more of a teardrop type of table with a whiteboard and your projector, maybe an extra table back here. And we thought of doing an extra table back in the back of a room, because oftentimes what disrupts a meeting is people coming in and leaving. And sometimes, because they know it's going to be disruptive, people will go into a meeting and sit there for 30 minutes, an hour, even though they know they've only got 5 minutes of content, or have to speak or have to make a decision in the first 5 minutes. They're then trapped. So by adding this table, they could come in, they can make that decision, and when they're done, they can leave and not be as disruptive to the meeting. And it actually allows them to free up their time and be more productive at the office. But what I can do is then, when I click on the actual space, it actually will show, okay, this is an enclosed space, and it's meant to foster conversations and problem solving and dialogues. It's giving you an indication of how you should use this type of room. And some of the benefits to that, which is the immersive audio and video, some whiteboard technologies. And it might be hard to see, but there's a small content camera here. So if they are whiteboarding, people can still see it at home. And here's another view that we can actually show of the room. And then as well, we also show some of the cabling specs, or how we assume cabling will work within all of these specifications. And here's they're color coded, like the purple being the LAN, blue being the USB cables, some of the purple being LAN cables. We try and detail this out as much as we can, because when we actually are going to implement a room, we want to send all the components on a pallet with this documentation, so that when it gets there, the installer has an idea what to do, what they're going to do, and how the implementation is going to go. And it's streamlining the process. It's helping us get the rooms converted a lot faster than it has in the past, but it also is improving the experience a lot faster for the employees. But on top of this, we also have all of the in-room technology stacks listed within the archetypes as well, so that if I've got a question on the Jabra, let's say, I can actually go right to their site and see the Panicast 50 and find out information on it. If I want to know about the Lenovo or the touch controller, again, I can go there, just a simple click and get there. And it makes it real easy for us and our customers to actually find the information. We also include the bill of materials of what we're doing, so that you can see I've got the Jabra, I've got all the different projectors or different options up here that I can actually have in this particular room. But on top of that, we've got the cables that are needed and the quantity of each. We've got the mounts, the types of mounts, the power requirements. This actually has a power strip. And you might wonder, wow, you're doing a room and you're going to throw a power strip in there. Well, one of the things that we found when redesigning rooms is the cost of actually moving an electrical outlet, or having to add an electrical outlet. So a quad outlet would probably work in this room, but pulling a permit or having the electrician come out and actually put in a quad outlet could be very expensive. And especially if you have to pull the permit, it gets very expensive. And so we're trying to figure out how to reduce costs as well in this thought process and what we're doing also. And we look at some of the consumable things that are there. But when it comes down to the actual deployment, we have the infrastructure requirements. We can preview those, and actually I can take all of these and share all these with you as well. With the customers, we go through a design. You find a design that's going to work for your particular space or be close. We can then share the documents that are important to you, and let you kind of take and modify as you see fit. But you can tell, here's the table utilities. It's pointing out where existing rooms life. Sorry, I can't read that. Where the existing raceways might be, where an existing, and this is actually mentioning a 1 inch. This is that circle there should be a conduit. So they're expecting some conduit to be in the wall. As well, the cable, the electrical requirements. What type of electrical outlets? If it happens to be for a European country or another country, we're including the power plug examples for those as well. Example boxes, example raceways. This is all of the thought detail that we put into these rooms, so that when we actually going to deploy, it's going to make it easier for us. And hopefully, if you can adopt some of these experiences and adopt some of these methodologies, it will help you improve your implementations and help them go a lot faster as well. But we break it all down into all the components. And again, the conduit, I wanted to get down here to where it should be mounted on the wall and where the piece part should actually go. This is the projection, where the projection, if you have a projector in the room, where the projector should go on the ceiling, based on that room size. And here's how the electrician should wire. This is a lot of detail, and you might not want to go this far, but it's something that you can share and at least keep in mind, because when we're designing the rooms, this has greatly improved how quickly we can move things out and get things going. And on top of that, this is a little bit slow sometimes. Oh, I got to push the right button sometimes. I got the cable pull and patch type of panels. I've got actual AV drawings that you can preview. This gets into like blueprints, where tables go, where outlets go. Again, where the components will go in the room, how high you're going to mount the TV mounts, where you're going to mount the different components. All very useful information. It also will help you if you decide to go with Microsoft Teams rooms in some of your environments. The configuration guides, how to actually configure it in the admin console. The MTR configuration, what you're going to want to do, and the actual punch list. So this is all the information that goes into our into making up a room and what we're doing today. And this is not only for the small room, we've got it again for medium rooms, again, traditional, which is coming soon, or the optimized, which is kind of what's shown on that, or what is shown on that video. And I'll let it catch up here. Again, what the design intent was for, the design benefit, a couple of different views, and you notice this has got the larger screen, and this has got the 21:9 aspect ratio. That is the best aspect ratio that we've seen that is a benefit to all the viewers, because you can actually put front row down at the bottom. That's all the individuals that you see at the bottom. You can see the content clearly still. And you also have the real estate on the left and the right-hand side for Q&A, as well as for raised hands and for comments and things like that. So for large rooms and large meetings and a lot of things that are happening, that is a 21:9 aspect ratio screen is really ideal for a room and for a space. Any questions with this tool? Any rooms that you would like to see?
Hey, James, I want to talk about real quick about that front row, because most of our customers have not gotten to see front row. Do you mind clicking back on
You bet.
And zoom in on that? Do you want to talk about what front row is, or do you want me to talk about that?
Oh, essentially front row is when it's taking the individual users that are in the meeting that have their video on. If they don't, it'll actually show their picture if they happen to be speaking, but it'll place them at the bottom of the screen. And you notice that they're at the bottom of the screen because they want people to be at eye level. They want people to, it's part of that connection. You want to feel across the table from somebody. So they put them at the bottom of the room, and it's taking the most active speaker, it'll put it in the center, and then it'll start moving people out as more people speak up and talk. It'll work that way, and the logistics will work that way as people speak up and talk. And then if nobody's talking, it will just show the video of everybody down at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, and some of the things I really like about this one is that this isn't some new license you have to buy to have front row or something. It's just included with Teams meeting, with the Teams meeting room. Now, when I say it's not some new license, like in other words, it's not there is a meeting room license, which is less expensive than just assigning a room an ID, like one of your G3 or your G5 IDs. But you don't have to, buy a special front row, permit or something like that. The other thing I really like about this front row view is it's a little bit hard to see in this picture, but down the left-hand side, you're going to have the what is that? That's the
over on the left-hand side is the raised hand.
Yeah, and so if you have people that raise hands in meetings, then you're gonna see them along the left side, and then on the right-hand side you have the chat. And so, Bradley, we'll show a large room optimized in just a second. What I like about this layout is that what we typically have to do in a meeting is we have to, you'll look up here and you'll see, people, and you'll see a little highlight that means someone has their hand up, and then you got to click on people, and then takes you into the people pane on the right hand side, and then you can see who has their hand up, and it even shows you what order they raise their hand, which I really love. But this way you're just seeing it there. A couple of other things that I like about this style is that with some of the newer hardware, and James, you can talk about the intelligent speakers, intelligent microphones, or any of that. I don't want to steal any thunder.
No, I wasn't planning to, but go ahead.
Yeah. And so with these newer camera systems and newer speakers, it has the ability to be able to tell who is speaking in the room. And so when I don't know the last time you were on the other end of just like a regular conference call, like with just a phone in the middle of the table, I had the absolute displeasure of sitting through one of those a couple of months ago, like old school, the way we used to do it. And it was just horrible. I couldn't tell who was talking. I couldn't see the whiteboard. I couldn't see anything that was going on. But this intelligent speaker now will actually identify who in the room is talking, and where that's particularly helpful is that the transcription will have who is speaking. And if you're using the audio captioning capability, then the audio captions say who is speaking. And something that just released, and it has released now to GCC. So I don't know if there's anybody from TxDOT on the line with us here, but about a year and a half ago, I got a request where they have some cross-border meetings, and they need the ability to transcribe what's being said into a foreign language. So that has just been released. So now, you know how we have the captions, and you can turn on under the ellipse, you can turn on the, let me get the right words, the turn on live captions. Well, now you can actually have captions that are translated into a different language. So if your language on your PC is Spanish, then when the people are talking, it will translate what they're saying into Spanish automatically. And so a lot of new things that have been released that, if you're not using it, you're just not even aware that it's happening. So James, thanks for letting me dig in on that a little bit.
Oh, you bet. And one of the things as you were speaking, it's speaking to that intelligent microphones, and is the if you can kind of see that gold box around this person, that's the identified speaker, or the person that was actually speaking last, and that's why they have the gold box around them and the others do not. So it not only brings it up front, but it puts the box around it so you know the exact person that's actually speaking. So you're not trying to decide which person up there in the front row is actually doing the one that's talking as well. So
nice. Another thing that we showcased at the Public Sector Leaders event is we showcased that a new camera type, an intelligent camera type. One of the challenges when you are remote, and I'm in a lot of remote meetings, I still have had very few in-person customer meetings, is when you're remote and there are people in the room, and there's like 6, or even in this layout where you have the, what do you got here, you got 7 chairs there, it can be difficult if you have a traditional camera just to see everybody, especially if it's at one of the longer traditional style conference rooms tables instead of one of these optimized tables, which are, this like a teardrop shape or this semicircular shape like James has on the screen. The new camera will actually take the individuals in the room and put them into their own square in the meeting for the people on the other end. And so what I love about that is that no longer is it just sort of this group of people that are really small in a room. It actually picks them out, puts them into their own window, zooms in on them, and then, as James said, when the person is speaking, it actually highlights which person is speaking.
One of the cool announcements, I don't know that it's been made. If it hasn't been made today, it'll be made tomorrow.
We can let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. Is that we also have a vendor that's announced a camera that can sit in the center of the table, of a round table, and actually you can show everybody that with an individual view of who's sitting around the table, and puts them up on the screen in their own individual views. So no longer is that going to be a hindrance with all those conference rooms that just simply have a round table. And it's like, what do I do with them? Because if I put a camera on the wall, everybody's got to turn, or the one guy is always has his back to the camera. Well, now you can just put it in the center of the room and everybody can be focused. So
yeah, and James, earlier you mentioned the content camera, but I think a lot of us haven't gotten to see a content camera, and so do you mind talking about what a content camera is and why somebody would use one of those?
Yeah, let me see if I'll get to the larger room too, just to see if it has a better picture of one. Traditional. This is I only have traditional large, it looks like. Oh, maybe not. Nope, no, it's taking a minute for the pictures to catch up. So, but this doesn't have the better view of the picture. I'll go back to this room. It had the content camera on it. This one actually has a good picture of one. So what Michael's talking about is having a content camera in front of a whiteboard, and that's actually this camera right here that sticks out a little bit away from the wall, about 2 meters, or not 2 meters, 2 feet from the wall, and points down on an actual whiteboard, so that if somebody, or you have a group of people that want to start collaborating on a whiteboard, everybody will be able to see it, because what it's going to do is it's going to take that camera will act as a content camera showing that board and display it on the main display just as if it was like a PowerPoint. And as a person starts to write on that board, it will then be transposed to everybody else so that they're able to see it. One of the cool things about it is usually when you're writing on a board, and you have a camera behind the person, whatever he's writing, you might not be able to see until he actually steps away and out of the way, and then everybody can actually see what's on the board. With the content camera, what it's going to start doing is, as it can pick up all of the content that's on the board, if a person is actually still writing in front of it, it's going to transpose it on their back, so you can actually see the information and see it as they continue to write. It'll continue to transpose on the person, and then when they step away, it'll be clear, clear as day as well. But it makes it, again, it's about the experience and making sure that people that are not in the room can still have that same clear view as the ones that are in the room, and making them feel connected. And in some ways, they get a better view because they're actually seeing it transposed on the person's back, while the people in the room that might be behind that person on the board would be able to see it. So it's really kind of cool to be remote in that particular case. But your own laptops could actually become the camera with them. On your laptops could actually be a content camera. You don't have to buy a specific camera for it, but these are specifically designed to be hung up above a whiteboard and not be intrusive to the room. But if let's say you have a meeting and you don't have a content camera and you wanted to start whiteboarding ad hoc, you could just turn on your PC's camera and start whiteboarding, and it would transpose for the people.
Yeah, one of the other things I like about the content cameras also is that it uses it's got to be artificial intelligence and machine learning, because that sounds cool. Is it changes the contrast. I don't know if you've ever tried to take a picture of a whiteboard with just a regular camera, like on your phone. Whiteboards they're pretty shiny, and so you get a lot of glare. And so what these cameras do is they take the glare out, and then I don't know how they do it, but they make the colors pop, and they make the contrast of the what's been written on the board pop, so that it's much easier to see.
The other thing that's nice too is that from Teams, you could actually take a snapshot of it as well, and then save it in that meeting environment, so that people that might not have attended the meeting would actually see the content in an easy to find place as well. So
Yeah, I think that's stored as one of the resources after the meeting, isn't it, James?
Correct.
Yeah. And so when you wrap up a meeting, the transcript, anything that was shared in the meeting, the download documents, all those kinds of things will be available for you afterward in that resources area. Let's see. Before we jump over to that, yeah, go ahead, James.
Yeah, there's a question: is where can we find these products? Are you talking about the specific products that we're using for these particular rooms? And if that's the case, I can share with you, as I mentioned, we've got the full the full bill of materials, the full equipment list, all of that things for all of the components for each of our archetypes, for each room, that I can freely share with all of our customers. So.
Yeah, and the DIR does have several of our vendors who have been approved, and I hate to say the word vendors, but the partners. So this particular bill of materials comes with a set of hardware that they have picked. And so there is also equipment from Dell, from Lenovo, from Poly that I'd mentioned earlier, from Yealink. And so the hardware you can purchase this through the DIR and through the DIR contracts. And that partner that I mentioned earlier, NWN Carousel, one of the things I failed to point out as I was scrolling through that page is they actually have the ability, if you are in a position where you need to retrofit some of your meeting rooms and make them into more intelligent meeting rooms, they basically do like a meeting room as a service. And what I mean by that is they will like finance the equipment itself. And so it doesn't have to be, where you have to wait for like a legislative budget approved. Now, I'm not trying to tell you how to do procurement, so let me be super clear about that. But if it's something where we could afford so many dollars a month, but we just can't afford to plunk down $50,000 in equipment, then they could do it more, speaking of kind of in accounting terms, more of like an OPEX versus a CAPEX. So I thought that was pretty unique. And again, they're on the DIR list, so you can do all that stuff with an approved partner.
Yeah. This is just a quick view of the large traditional room. Traditional is just the long table with kind of the surfboard look. The cameras tend to shoot down that, and as if you're sitting at the end of the table, it starts getting really narrow and it gets really hard to see people. But this is an optimized room in that you can see from the drawing here, they do have extra speakers, extra microphones, and extra cameras in this room, so that when a person maybe down at the end of this table is speaking, this camera that's up here at the very front isn't necessarily going to capture that person. Here you've got a pan, tilt, and zoom camera here and here that could capture that person and zoom in on that person that's speaking, and again pull them in and have that face-to-face conversation and make it a little bit more personable and help that experience as it gets harder and harder as these rooms get bigger and longer. And I will add too, on that room with the half round table that we were just looking at, there was the nine chairs maybe around that table. That room is also designed, if you have an extra camera, to have chairs against the back wall, about 10 to 15 chairs across the back wall, with another pan, tilt, zoom camera that will do the exact same thing that I'm talking about here, so that those people on the back wall, if they happen to speak up, it will capture them as well.
Oh, that's really cool. I hadn't seen that before. Bradley, that was your question about the large room optimized. Okay, so this is the large room traditional. Do we have a large room optimized, James?
Unfortunately, we don't, and not in our current drawings. One of the things that with our planning that I'll be upfront with is that we tend to hit the small rooms first. That's where we get more bang for our buck. Requires the least amount of modifications, because you get to the bigger rooms, it's more components, more piece parts, and we can't move as fast. So that's part of the strategy, as well as we'll hit as many rooms as fast as we can, and then we're hitting these larger rooms as we can as well. And that's where the extra large is actually very flexible right now, because we're still designing our boardroom as we speak at Microsoft, and that's real fluid right now as to how that room's going to end up. So
okay,
as we get more, we'll share more. And this is actually I think there is one. Oh yeah, it's this one here. We're starting to pull in some of the other vendors as well. This was a room or a space that actually has the Neat board. And so we're starting to highlight some of the other components and some of the other vendors as well. And I see you're asking if the catalog is available. Unfortunately, we're not providing access to this actual tool because it wasn't built for the masses. And so if you do work with us, we can get you any of the components, any of the build lists, the checkoff lists, all of those things we can send to you. No problem at all. They've actually made it easy for us to do. And we're happy to do that. But unfortunately, you don't get access to the tools because it's not built that way.
I will put into the chat here. There is. Let me just make sure that I'm okay. Yeah. James, do you mind if I share my screen real quick?
Not a problem.
Okay, let me share this. It is really important when you're picking hardware that you pick certified hardware. We have one of our customers, let's see here. We had one of our customers buy a lot of hardware and it was not Teams Room certified, and the challenge ran in. Now it was Cisco hardware, and they were a big Cisco shop a couple of years ago when they purchased the hardware. And so, but what happened during the pandemic is they really switched to using Teams. And so when they turned on all of when they started doing Teams meetings inside of the Cisco hardware rooms, they found that like some of the features like the raise hand feature and some of the things that people had gotten very used to using in Teams when you're doing a Teams meeting wouldn't show up in the Cisco hardware. And so we're working with them on a way to make that an as good as possible experience. But if you're going to buy new hardware, then buy what's called certified hardware. And so I just searched for Teams certified hardware, and it'll bring up this page. And so what you can do then is you could search by headset, speakerphones, web camera, and then Teams rooms. And so if you go to Teams rooms, then this is going to show a little bit. It's not going to have all of the guidance that James showed, but if you say, okay, I've got like an extra large meeting room, then it can show a bundle of equipment. This is, in this case, it would be this Yealink equipment that would be set up for that room. And then, like if I come down here, something that's a little bit more standard, like the I guess James mentioned the small meeting room. Then you're going to have a lot of options. So this particular hardware manufacturer, Neat, they have these screens that have the sound bar built in. They've got the camera built in. Like everything is built into this one unit, and they're really gorgeous. I think they're out of Scandinavia, and so they just it looks like something that would be designed in Scandinavia just because it's so clean and pretty. And so like here's the system from Poly. Here are systems from Lenovo and Logitech and Yealink. And I know that the Dell has systems as well. Here's EPOS. So I think there's about 7 vendors that all have this certified hardware. There is equipment from Crestron. Some of you may have Crestron equipment in your existing facilities. It's a little more complex, the Crestron stuff, and a little bit more expensive than some of the other partners that I've seen, but I think they're really coming down on price and coming down on complexity. And so this is a great way to take a look. Now, if you have a particular vendor that you're interested in, or you have somebody that you're already working with, like let's just say you already own Poly equipment, then we can connect you with the Poly rep, and then also the approved vendors are on the DIR list. There's the Texan contract, which I spoke about earlier, where you've got AT&T, you have NW and Carousel, and I think it's Red River on the Texan contract, and that's for like telephony services. But then the DIR also has approved vendors and devices that are available through the DIR cooperative purchasing contracts. So we just want to make sure, keep everybody out of trouble, make sure that you procure the things correctly. There's a couple of different avenues for how you would do that. But that's kind of where you can go and where you can find out this information. All right, let me stop sharing, James.
No problem. And there's a question there, do we work with designs in classrooms? And yes, we do. We're doing a lot of work with higher ed, as you can imagine. Also do work with some of the smaller schools. And actually, we're hoping to finish up a Department of Education in Puerto Rico, where we've got about 15,000 rooms that we're doing. So yes, we do that.
All right. So,
getting to
James,
my-
did you have
there
any
we go.
other? Yeah, there you go. Good. Thank you.
So what I'm going to cover here briefly, and hopefully not take too much time doing, I'm going to try and get my everything adjusted again to where I can at least see if there's a question that comes up. Just really about the approach. You know, how did we get to all of those spaces, and how did we get there, and what we're doing moving forward. And when it came to designing the rooms, one of the things that we were really focused on is inclusivity. We wanted to make sure that everybody felt like they could be a participant in a meeting and not feel left out. Make sure that everybody, you know, would feel important when they're there, and make sure that they were that they could have a say, especially if they had something to that they needed to bring up, that it would be captured as well. The other thing is we wanted to make sure that it was easy to use for all. And they mentioned consistency in the video, and consistency has been very important for us, and it's very important for our customers. I had one customer in New York that he's like, all I want is consistency. And that's what Microsoft Teams Rooms really does, is what you actually sometimes see and feel on your laptop, you can actually go into a Microsoft Teams room and feel almost that same type of experience. And that is that one-touch join, going in there and being able to touch it and join the meeting seamlessly. We have other ways in which you can join a meeting as well. But the main thing, it's got to be easy and it's got to be consistent, because when somebody goes into a room one week and then they have their meeting, they leave, and they go into another meeting room the next week or 2 weeks later, and it's completely different, it's very frustrating for the end user. And so we wanted that consistency across the board, and that's what Microsoft Teams does as well. And we wanted the flexibility in our design as well, so that, yeah, you've got a 10 by 12 room or 15 by 15 room, but out of the 500, maybe only 150 or 200 are actually 15 by 15, but the square footage could be different, the room sizes could be different. We wanted the flexibility that you could do any room with certain components, again, narrowing those components down from our catalog to where they would fit and it would work, and being able to do the simplified changes that we might need to do and make it as easy as possible. And of course, we wanted security, them to be secure, to make sure the content's secure, anything that you're sharing is secure as well. And we wanted to make sure that, of that as we designed the rooms. And when it came to hybrid work, the main thing was we wanted to make sure you could hear and be heard. Oftentimes, if you have bad audio, people just sometimes will give up. But also, sometimes people don't want to speak up in a room, and or they want to wait their turn, and because everybody's talking in a room, they never get that turn right. But by raising a hand, it flags people that, oh, stop, somebody has something to say, so they can actually be heard. So it's doing different things, not only just with the room, but all the components and the software and everything else combined with the platform to make sure that people can hear and be heard. See and be seen is also important. Make sure that people can clearly see one another. That's why we don't mount the cameras on top of TVs. They're at the bottom. Again, trying to keep that eye level, keep people that face to face whenever you can. That's where the focus is as well, so that you can actually read what's going on in the room. Want to enable collaboration, make sure that work can get done, and make sure that meetings are effective. And again, driving that consistency with the rooms. We've all wasted time when you go into a room and cables aren't working, or you've got to plug something in, or how does this work? Why isn't it showing on the screen? We wanted consistency so that people could easily share and get the work done and then get on about their day. And again, making sure it's immersive and inclusive, making sure that everybody feels a part of the meeting, and everybody feels important, and everybody can have a say. So that's kind of the soft things that that we look at when it comes to actually starting to select the rooms and the devices. As Michael just showed, we've got a catalog of certified devices. That's where we start, and those devices get into that catalog by that Hive team, and they evaluate all of the components. They try and, well, they test to make sure they say they're going to do, but then they try and push them beyond their limits to find out what those limits are, so that, we might have something that might be a little bit out of spec, but we know it's still going to work, therefore we could still use it. So it's looking at things in depth and making sure that that they will work the way we need them to with specific rooms. And then when it comes to the devices, we narrow down from that those certified devices. We start looking at the life cycle, the room fit, the warranty, ease of upgrades. I'll get into a little bit of detail on that, but it's the basic things that you're normally going to look at when it comes to actually selecting a device, and making sure that it's available. Before, or in the last year or so, availability has been tough, and it's gotten better. It's gotten better for us. It's not us meaning that we um, get priority. It's us that some of our components, like a Microsoft Hub, we're starting to see the delays being reduced to almost weeks now. So we're doing a lot better. Our manufacturers are doing a lot better as well. So availability was high on the list for actually making sure how we were selecting our room types. And then we look at, again, where can we get the most bang for our buck? Simplifying the rollout, making sure that it's simple, it's easy, it's consistent, and repeatable. We want a repeatable process because we don't want each room to be an individual implementation. Otherwise, it takes too long and it slows down the process and us moving faster. So some of the strategic activities that we're doing is discovering, planning, procuring, and deploying. In that discover process, it's understanding what the meeting scenarios are, who's in the meetings, why they're in the meetings, all of those types of things. And then starting to design and plan for spaces that would accommodate those types of meetings, and looking at what's available, what we would have to change, what we wouldn't have to change. We're trying to do the best we can of not modifying the physical spaces if we can, because that's costly. And even just running a conduit can be very costly. I had one customer that was having to run conduit through a building that was built in the 60s and it has asbestos in it, and that blew his budget. And so we're trying to avoid those types of things. And when you have to pull in a permit or extra contractors, and you've got I can't think of can't think of it at the moment, but it's the construction cost that can actually be higher than the cost of actually implementing the components. We're trying to avoid that. And so then we look at procuring the equipment, equipment by going out to bid, finding out who has the best, again, price, and who will work with us on the best price. And then we do our final selection. And then we start that deployment process. And once we've selected the gear, we start writing those documents, as you see, and do what we can to start rinse and repeating everywhere, wherever possible. We look at, again, why people meet. They either are there to problem solve, share information, sometimes to just get approval, or sometimes to connect emotionally. And that's something that we did, or I did as a as a remote employee, as also during the pandemic. It was nice. I set up 15-minute water cooler talks with my coworkers, and it was simply just, hey, let's get on and chat. It doesn't have to be about work. Oftentimes it was, like water cooler is, but we stayed connected and actually got closer during the pandemic than we were prior to it. So it was kind of a neat thing to do. But the other thing is find out what kinds of meetings that they're having. Is it one-on-one? Is it to just review? Is it working sessions, status check-ins, those types of things? And what kind of spaces would accommodate those? And do you need as many as you have, or do you need more? Maybe you need more huddle spaces than you do actual meeting rooms. The nice thing with the admin console as well and Microsoft Teams is you can actually look at your rooms and see which ones are actually getting utilized the most and the ones that are not getting utilized. And you can start evaluating, do I need this room or what's wrong with it? And in one instance, we found one room wasn't getting utilized and but this other one was booked all the time. And we're like, well, what's the difference? Well, the air conditioning wasn't working in the one room. And so, hey, we fixed the air conditioning and now that room's getting utilized. So it helps you not only, solve some of the problems with how you're conducting meetings, but the meetings that you're having, but also might solve some problems that you have in your environment as well. So we're trying to look at all of those things and find out how these meetings are being used, and then start identifying how many we're going to need and how we're going to roll those meeting rooms out. When it comes to selection, we always look at the life cycle status. We want to make sure we're not buying something that's end of life or coming up at the end of its lifespan. We want it to last for about 3 years. Meeting room components and the cameras and everything, in the past, we used to look at them lasting about 5 to 7 years. Sometimes we try and stretch it to 10 years. But with the pandemic, with all so many manufacturers that are out there now creating the meeting room components, the cameras and the microphones and speakers and headsets and all of those things, the technology's gotten better, and of course the prices have started to come down. And so now we're starting to look at about a 3-year replacement period, anywhere between 3 and 5 years. So that's the lifespan that we're looking at when it comes to actually determining on which devices we're going to choose for some of the rooms. We're going to look at how it actually fits into the room. If we got a room that is maybe 30 foot long, through our testing, could we push that camera that's only going to support 25 feet to that 30-foot mark? Or do we really want to push that threshold for the fear that something could possibly go wrong, or it's not going to be the best experience possible? So we bring it into 20 foot as one of our specifications for the particular room, that it's not further than that. It's looking at how the actual room is and how the components are going to fit in the room is also important. We look at the warranty, as I'm sure you do as well, and the ease of upgrade. Is it a full rip and replace, or is it a component-based system where you can replace different components? That was one of the things that we listened to when it came to the Surface Hub. If a Surface Hub in the past went the Hub version 1, the camera was attached to it, the compute was attached to it, you had to replace the whole device. Now we've got modular cameras, we've got modular compute in the Surface Hub 2, and if one of the components break, you simply replace that component. Or if you get if another camera comes out that's better in the next year, you just replace the camera. You're not replacing the whole device. So that's what we're looking at with our other vendors as well, and making sure that it can be easily upgraded. We look at the budget, of course, and what it's going to take when it comes to the upgrades. The installation, we try and anticipate what it's going to be. Hopefully we don't have to move electrical. We don't have to add conduit. We don't have to add raceways or anything else like that. We try and work with what we possibly can and make it work, but sometimes you've got to make those changes, and therefore we do. Again, I spoke to availability, but the other thing that we also focus on is that end user feedback. Create a feedback loop whenever you're testing out the components. Make sure people are using them and giving you feedback. So it not only helps you as you create training and guidelines for how to use the equipment in the room, you might need to tweak it to help them, or you might need to come to us and tell us, hey, we're getting this from our customers. We are listening. We're trying to do our best to make the experience the best possible. So let us know when things aren't working, and we'll do our best to push that forward and work with the product groups to get things improved. But that's kind of that is our design process in a simplified talk track, and simply how we're doing things. But as I said, we do have all of those archetypes available and all the components available. if you want them all, I'll send them all. If you'd like just a few of them, let me know. Glad to send those out to you. And that's the full bill of materials, device specifications, install instructions, all of that would be included. And I think, the main thing is we're here to work with you. We're here to help you create your spaces, whatever size they might be. If it gets to be really large, and those enhanced meeting rooms that are super large, that have got all kinds of cameras and lights and microphones and all that, we'll probably lean on a AV vendor as well to pull them in to make sure that we're doing the things according to your needs. And those actually usually take a lot of configuration as well. But we're here to help and pull in the people that we need to get you the designs that you need to get done. And we can help you explore, we can help you plan and get you going. Just feel free to reach out. Again, my contact information was there at the beginning. This is what I focus on, so glad to talk with any and all of you on moving forward with any rooms that you might have. Just let us know. And this is just a slide for as you get ready for hybrid work, or you get ready to do rooms or anything else like that. Here's a list of hot links and documentation that you can go to help you out. Sorry, I forgot that I put that in there. I thought I was going to be right at Q&A. But now it's time for Q&A. If you have any questions, feel free to come off mute and ask them, or put it in chat, however you like, or raise your hand.
James, is it okay if I share your email address in the chat here?
Yes, I was going to as well.
Yeah, thanks, Andra. Andra, and she works with the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation, and they were an early adopter of the Teams rooms.
No,
I still work at Parks and Wildlife.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Star.
It's Star and
Jose
yes, that have defected. Yes.
Sorry about that, Andra. Man, if any of the other people, if Arnie would have heard me say that, he was like, "Wait, what?" No, so
let's not give him a heart attack.
No, not at all. So I did put James's contact info there, and then James, I went ahead and added it to the first slide that I have in my deck that I'll send out with a PDF. And if you're reaching out to James with this, go ahead and copy me, Michael Kennedy. It's michael.kennedy@microsoft.com. And just reference, if you don't mind, like, let me ask a favor. Don't reply to this meeting request and embed your, just type a message in there, because I get a whole bunch of bounce backs and like acceptances and stuff to this meeting request, and they get buried, and I can't even find them sometimes. And so you know how like nested conversations, they get below. So if you would start a fresh email and just send it to James and myself, then we'll make sure and get y'all set up so that you can get access to the tool and all the planning and everything else. Yeah.
And I'll work with you, Michael. I'll pull all those down and work with you on where you want to place them.
Place what? I'm sorry?
All of the design guides and configurations.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have a great way, like I don't have a community platform or something like that where we can put all of those, but we can get those to you.
Is this a standing meeting with?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
So we meet once a month on the second Thursday of every month.
So if I drop them in here, everybody would be able to get access to them.
Yeah, they sure would. That would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Other questions that y'all have? Are any of you about to go into a kind of a design process for your buildings? Yeah, we hope to. Yeah, it's things have. I think we're maybe on the cusp of being able to go back to work for some of us. And so, yeah, kind of now's the time that that some of the stuff is going to become really important. Yeah, Star came off YouTube. Yeah, thanks, Star. Okay. Yeah, when leadership changes, that often makes some changes. And Andra, if your new ED would like to visit with us about just what we're seeing from a people standpoint, that was the whole point of that that hybrid work summit for public sector leaders, was really to give the executive directors and CIOs and people managers an opportunity to learn some of the latest things that we're seeing around culture and people and retention and employee engagement. And so if they would like just kind of a private conversation around that, then we can certainly set that up. And for anybody else, if you have someone in your leadership that that is really interested around employee engagement and employee retention, there's a lot of information that we have that we can share with them just around use the technology that you already have and that you already have deployed to make it easier for people to work and get their jobs done, and make it easier to attract and retain employees. So we're real happy to help. So
Yeah, he's coming from private industry, so private into state is sometimes challenging.
Yeah.
So and he's got a total different sense of style and everything than our former director. So we may be looking at trying to redo the entire executive conference room in a totally different style than what it is right now. And that's way beyond my capabilities.
Yeah, let us know, Andra. We're happy to help, and we can engage with whoever that y'all want out there, and just have a little bit of a kind of a what's possible exploration. And then I think one of the benefits of the work that James is a beneficiary of with the Hive and everything is that we've already thought through so much of this stuff. There's no reason to to pay somebody to come in and do the analysis. The analysis has already been done on different room archetypes, and we'd love to help save you all some money. After all, it's all of our money, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, great. All right, I want to make one last call for any questions. See if there's anybody else that has something. And otherwise, I just want to say thank you to James. Really appreciate you coming and sharing all that information and your expertise, James. Appreciate your offer to meet with us and work with us here in the state of Texas, and the different cities and other organizations that attend this meeting. And I know we're going to learn a ton as we all get to work together. And thanks to everybody in the community that attended, and all of my Microsoft coworkers who were here and helping out. So thanks, y'all. And this will wrap up the October community meeting, and look forward to visiting with all of you in November. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now.
Thanks, Michael. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Judy. Sure appreciate it.
Thank you, James.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.